In the Greek creation story, the night was among the earliest aspects to appear. It was one of the primordial components from which everything else, including the gods, was produced, and this dark aspect of nature was represented by the goddess Nyx. Nyx was so important in the Greek conception of the world that she existed even before day or even light. Some cults claim that she was so powerful that she created something in the cosmos, even the planet itself, like the terrifying qualities of the night she symbolized. Nyx was a goddess who could induce enormous terror. As the mother of many ills and the consort of darkness, even Zeus knew better than to cross Nyx. But why was she so prominent? Let's find out. The Greek gods' family tree is quite complicated. It turns out that they function within a somewhat close gene pool, which is more than a touch incestuous. With only one generation above her, Nyx is nearly at the top of this family tree. But how did everything unravel? At the very end of the Greek myths, there was only chaos. The concept of chaos was traditionally portrayed as the air goddess. Later, classical authors described her as the chaotic mix of materials that existed before creation. This is where the modern definition of the term comes from. Chaos had 3 children: Erebos, the personification of darkness and mists of the underworld, Nyx, the night, and Hemera, the day. These protogenoi then procreated, giving rise to a variety of additional protogenoi as well as spirits, such as the daimones, the source of emotions. These children served as extra building bricks, aiding in the development of the early cosmos. But coming back to the center of attention for today's video, Nyx. She was the night goddess, but she wasn't simply the ruler of the night, rather an embodiment of night itself. This meant that, like the other primordial gods, she had no shape and little characterization beyond this element. While she was occasionally represented as a lady robed in black mists, it was widely assumed that she was the night itself. In sculpture, the mists of the night were frequently depicted as a black robe that spanned above her. She was sometimes represented with wings to soar through the black sky, although she was usually dragged by a chariot. She was frequently paired with Erebus, her brother, who was the personification of darkness. Both had evolved from chaos and were inextricably linked. Erebus was the deity of all darkness, from the murky realms at the world's edge to the deep caverns where sunlight could not penetrate. As she glided across the sky, he followed Nyx, his sister and consort. Uranus, the sky, was a massive brass dome that stretched above the ground. He would not be blue until the Titaness Theia replaced her. Their children, Hemera, who represented the day, Aether, who represented brightness, would be the first to illuminate Uranus and Gaia's surface. In the beginning, only Erebus and Nyx drove a dark chariot across Uranus. Her children became her polar opposites, balancing her mother's and father's abilities. While Nyx dominated the night sky, Hemera ruled the day. According to Hesiod, the two shared a home near the world's edges. They exchanged greetings at the door in the morning and at dusk, but they never shared the house at the same time, just like sun and moon, for an easy example. She also had an apparent position among Greek religion's mystery cults. There was no known Nyx temples. She, like most of the primordial creatures, was thought to have no material existence and too unlike humans to care about what they did. However, there exist cult icons and modest shrines dedicated to Nyx. She was frequently seen in the backdrop of other deities' adoration, such as Artemis or Hecate. And it's no surprise that Nyx was associated with Hecate, the goddess of sorcery and witchcraft, because magicians were supposed to be strongest at night and could only conduct many of their spells under cover of darkness. In ancient times, descriptions of magic, particularly witchcraft, frequently included a summons to Nyx. These cults had cosmologies and worldviews that often diverged from mainstream Greek religion. They emphasized deities linked with those realms as part of their quest to fathom the mysteries of death and the nature of the afterlife. Because of their emphasis on chthonic deities and the secrets of the dead, the Orphic cults frequently worshipped gods and goddesses that possessed darker qualities than the rest of the Greek pantheon. While other Greeks worshipped gods of light, such as Apollo, the Orphic mysteries worshipped Persephone, queen of the underworld, and Hecate, guardian of hidden magic. Therefore, the goddess of night and consort of darkness was of great interest to those who followed the Orphic rites. Those initiated into the Orphic mysteries discovered that Nyx, not chaos, was the primal form from which all other life and substance sprang, and everything began in the middle of the night. Unlike the more common belief that Eros, the embodiment of love, was the son of Aphrodite, the Orphic mysteries held that he was one of Nyx's earliest children. So love, notably romantic and sexual love, existed before Gaia even existed. Believers in the mystery cults also believe that anyone seeking to learn more about the world may reach Nyx. Instead of depending on Apollo's heavenly oracles, they thought that at the furthest ends of the earth, Nyx occupied a cave, from which she issued more precise prophecies than any other deity was capable of. The Orphic mystery cults did not represent the popular understanding of cosmology or the divine order of Greek mythology, but they did have an impact. The concept of Nyx was a prophetic goddess, and Eros' mother spread into more mainstream texts, as well as Orphic cult poetry and hymns. Nyx never played a prominent role in surviving mythical narratives, although she does appear in one Hera and Hypnos story, with Hypnos, the sleep, being another child of Nyx. According to legend, Hera, Zeus's wife, requests that Hypnos put Zeus to sleep. Hypnos is hesitant, recalling what occurred the last time he did Hera a favor. This was done so that Hera may bring Heracles misery, who was a Greek hero and bastard son of Zeus. However, Hypnos lacked the strength to completely incapacitate Zeus. When Zeus saw what was going on, he became enraged and set out to find Hypnos in order to smite him into the sea. Hypnos, being no fool, escaped to Nyx's house, where she took him in. Zeus was afraid of Nyx's anger, therefore he did not dare to transgress. This was not a one-time occurrence. Hypnos was never forgiven by Zeus. They would have numerous more run-ins throughout the years. Each time, Hypnos would dash to his mother's side, knowing Zeus would be too terrified to intervene. It is safe to say that half of Zeus's terror arises from Nyx's antiquity, while the other half stems from her incredible strength. That is to say, Nyx is a formidable deity. A primal deity in any mythology possessed enormous power over all other gods in the pantheon. To put Nyx's strength into perspective, even the Olympian gods struggled for decades with their forebearers from a single generation before them. The Olympians only won that battle because they allied with the Hecatoncheires and Cyclops. We may suppose that if the gods, allies, and all chose to battle a primordial entity directly, the combat would be done before it even started, with the obvious winner being the primordial deity, even if they fought a lone battle. Now, another point to cover. What does the isolated king of the Underworld feel now that we've proven Zeus is frightened of Nyx? As king of the Underworld, Hades reigns over the domain where Nyx and her children live. They're subject to Hades' rules and regulations, because they're residents of the Underworld. That is to say, even the dreadful black-winged Nyx is no exception. But in a complicated way, and despite being Hades' great aunt, Nyx is a bit of a co-worker. She envelops the planet in dark mists, letting her more wicked offspring run wild. It all makes sense when we realize that many of her kids were involved in death and dying, so Nyx has always been a central but unheard figure. One of her more noteworthy mentions stems from Titanomachy. While she is unlikely to have been involved in the battle itself, she may have had a role in its aftermath. Remember Zeus chopping up his father before tossing him and his companions into Tartarus? According to certain versions of the narrative, Cronus, the oppressive Titan ruler, was imprisoned in Nyx's cave. Cronus, according to folklore, is still alive. He is never permitted to flee. He's locked up in a drunken stupor, muttering prophecies about his visions. And that's Nyx's tale for you. Do like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. We'll see you next time. Until then, stay mythical.